What's up gamers, Dreamcast Guy here, and it's Top 10 Thursday. Over the course of the last year, I've played over 100 games. Most of them have been surprisingly good. This is certainly a time for interesting experiences, from giant RPGs to experimental indie projects. However, some of the stuff I played is absolute garbage. Games that in my opinion should be burned rather than played. This week we're taking a special look at those. These are my picks for the top 10 worst games of 2017. Number 10. Rogue Trooper Redux. When it comes to any third-person shooter, controls are really everything. Since the camera is put far away from our character, the key to seeming connected to him is of course to make the combat so fluid that we still feel like we're in his shoes. Games like Gears of War are an example of something doing this flawlessly. Rogue Trooper, on the other hand, misses the chance to create something special, instead crafting an experience that's a pile of broken movement and really stupid story. Aiming at targets, throwing grenades, and sometimes just walking is annoyingly difficult, and I don't understand why. We've had these games around for years, so there's no excuse to make this kind of major mess. Number 9. Valkyria Revolution. Ask any super hardcore RPG fan what the most underrated series is, and they'll surely mention Valkyria Chronicles. If you love turn-based titles and original gameplay, this is certainly a hit for you. However, after the franchise got 3 awesome entries, it just kinda died out. That is until we got this weird spin-off. Revolution takes place in an alternate universe with a new cast of characters. Now that doesn't suck, it's the fighting that they totally ruined. The slow, dramatic skirmishes that were just so fantastic have been replaced with a screwed up action RPG system that simply does not work. If I had to guess, I think they were trying to speed up a game to try and make it more accessible, but in the process they ended up destroying what originally was the essence of why we enjoyed it so much. Number 8. Vaccine. There's always something so interesting about watching a team of indie developers take an existing idea and try twisting it up to take it in a fresh direction. I believe that was the plan with Vaccine, but honestly, it's so bad it's hard to tell. The general gameplay is roughly Resident Evil 1, but in a randomized mansion. That means that each playthrough will lead you deep into different creepy passages and surprise you with monsters and spots you didn't expect. Well, that's probably what they wanted anyways. While the bad graphics and retro movement may anger some, my issues arise with the fact that there's just nothing cool about repeating the same areas over and over. Leveling up my hero and finding guns isn't really enjoyable when I'm stuck trying to dive back into the same little environments. Vaccine just kills me since it could have been a really bold remake of old school survival horror, and instead it's just a lazy ripoff. Number 7. Bubsy, the Woolies Strike Back. Somewhere out in the world, I assume that there's somebody who actually likes Bubsy, but his games were never really my style. They always felt stiff and boring, even when playing the more popular parts of the franchise. For the Woolies Strike Back, they wanted to revive this long-dead cat for one more adventure, and yet they should have definitely left him just sitting in his grave. Where do I even start with this? Jumping and floating is really loose and leads to pointless deaths. Every map we play on looks almost identical because they reuse assets constantly, and on top of everything else, the game is short. Those insane enough to truly like this bland garbage are still going to be upset that there are only 14 missions. I'm 100% positive that this was made as a tiny test project, and some company bought the rights and just shipped it as a finished game, even though obviously it's hardly a working prototype. Number 6. Knee Deep. When it comes to bringing out something unique in the modern age, it's more and more impossible. Almost everything has been done in some form or another, well, except for the really weird stuff. I think that Knee Deep was aiming to be so bizarre that people would think it was great, but holy heck does it fail at that. This should technically be classified as a point-and-click mystery, but without all the charm that actually made those fun. We're essentially being dragged through a series of events with small decisions that lead us to gather up clues as to who the murderer is. Flipping through crime scenes, interviewing witnesses, and compiling reports could have been seriously cool, but they just ended up missing the mark. They flopped in nearly every aspect. Honestly, about halfway through this game, I got so painfully bored, I started hammering the next button just to see if any characters died or something actually happened. Unfortunately, it just never builds up. It's a game that has a lot of promise that it never ever delivers on. Number 5. Need for Speed Payback. Of all the long-running racing series out there, perhaps nothing is more flat-out fantastic than Need for Speed. The earlier entries managed to capture a raw sense of excitement to driving, making every corner a thrill, whether you're running from cops or other racers. While Payback remains a solid project for the controls itself, it absolutely collapses when it comes to upgrades. In a game like this, typically you win competitions to earn money and then spin that under the hood to tweak the engine with specific parts. That has been unfortunately removed, and now everything is being done with loot crates. You must purchase random boxes of gear and just hope it's something you need. That's like you're going to the store to buy food and you're really hungry, but when you pick up a box of cereal, inside is just a deck of playing cards. Depending on the card you get is the meal you're going to eat. The fact that they just shoved in pointless complications and needless microtransactions is a testament to how bad EA can really be. Number 4. Dead Alliance. What you're watching here is the only gameplay I've ever bothered to record for this. The problem is that whenever I sit down and try and actually get into it, it is so aggravating. Every little facet of this is just so flawed I can't get into it. Dead Alliance is a multiplayer shooter with a lot of zombies. The general objective is that you have to get points for kills, but you can also score by drawing the undead into your enemies. I suppose that this was intended to add a sense of strategy to the combat, and yet it never quite lands. If I can just be brutally honest for a second, this game is just bad, down to its very core. While certain elements of this sound pretty interesting, it never really comes together. There are so many fundamental issues, like the fact that shooting itself is never fluid. Zombies look like they were stolen from a student art project, and running makes the camera have a seizure. I personally think that this should not be allowed on store shelves without some major patches to make it even marginally more playable. Number 3. Troll and I. My grandfather, when he was alive, used to give me random advice, and a lot of it was quite good. One thing he'd tell me over and over again is this: do something repeatedly until you're the best. And I've always liked that. The thought that training on one thing and being the master of it is more useful than having a bunch of skills that you kinda suck at. At its core, that's really the biggest problem with Troll and I, is it tries a lot of things and it doesn't ever get them. It fails so hard to do anything because it attempts so much. Climbing feels like Uncharted, but way stiffer. Sneaking areas are so poorly built that most of the time I just try and break the game and see if I could glitch past enemies, and the puzzles are so basic, a 4-year-old could solve them blindfolded. Rather than focusing on a single piece of gameplay to wow the audience, they glued together the worst ideas they could come up with and just hoped that it'd add up to a good game. Of all the entries on this list that kinda pissed me off when I tried them, Troll and I is unique because it just makes me sad. I do think that if they had just put in even minimal effort, this could have been a pretty neat little indie platformer. Number 2. Life of Black Tiger. Writing about a project that is pure trash like this can be difficult. I mean, how do you describe a game that hardly even counts as a game? Life of Black Tiger puts you in the paws of a jungle cat that's lost in the woods after being pushed out by humans. Now you need to hunt and gather food for... You know what? You don't care about this. Nobody cares about this. This is ridiculous. I mean, seriously, if we're getting down to it, this is very clearly ported from like Russian cell phones. The animations are so clearly unfinished, the quests make no sense, and when it tries to actually talk in English, it's total nonsense. The first time I actually turned this on, the first thing that really caught me off guard is, look, the character actually doesn't tilt when he goes uphill. You're always exactly horizontal, which means that this game can't even detect where you're at. What really blows my mind is that this is on the PlayStation Store and it has been for months. Why is Sony not removing this? Even having this at all in your market is showing just how crappy it is. Seriously, this needs to be absolutely burned out of existence. Every copy should be deleted and we should just try and forget that Black Tiger even existed. Number 1. Reservoir Dogs Bloody Days. Stuff based on movies can be really hit and miss. Occasionally you'll stumble upon a comic based on a film that happens to be incredible, or a game that's based on a movie that just is almost better than the flick itself. In this case though, this is honestly one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. Bloody Days takes place sort of in the universe of Reservoir Dogs, or at least I think so. The characters are all named after the heroes we know, but they don't really have any physical resemblance, and they also don't really do any of the events that took place in the movie. Instead, you're carrying out a series of random heists. The biggest thing, the issue that absolutely destroys this game for me, is the gameplay mechanics. There is a time rewind system that is just a travesty. So basically, you have multiple people in each job, but you don't play them at once. Instead, you play through a level and then rewind back to the beginning and play the next character. This makes it where if you shoot 2 guards and then shift backwards, you can now play somebody else and give them cover fire. It lets you correct mistakes, or at least that's what they told me would happen. When I played this game, I wanted to rip my hair out, it is so annoying. So what happens is, the AI is made to adapt to whoever's walking in, which makes it where, since you just already did one route through a room with one character, the second character is going to end up breaking your timeline. What is the point in having a rewind mechanic if it's only going to break the shootouts? This is so bad, I cannot believe it happened. I never thought I'd say this in my life, but this game is so bad it makes me like the movie less. Yes, I'm being for real. Reservoir Dogs Bloody Days is a testament to just how abysmally awful a shovelware game can be. And for that reason, I'm awarding it my pick as the worst game of 2017. Did your favorite dumpster fire not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I want to end this video with a giant special thank you. This is the last major video of 2017, and I just wanted to say, it's been amazing. Honestly, I never would have expected it to be this intense. I calculated today, I'm going to have gotten 8 million views in the last 12 months, which is crazy, and 30,000 new subscribers. So thank you everybody for liking videos, leaving me cool comments, and sharing stuff all over the place. And thank you to all the fans I've met in person. I've signed so many autographs and taken so many dramatic selfies with people. It's so fun, and now I've never been more excited for the next year to come. But let's do this. 2018, locked and loaded. Oh, hey. I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.